42 minutes after 6, you're still on the AM showtime now for the online and newspaper reviews, and quite a number of papers already. But obviously, that story making rounds has to do with the majority saying that they've hipped the minority. Now, boom, that's what they say in Parliament, you know. So let me start off with the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and you can see right here on the front page of the newspaper a picture of Edward Doaja, Speaker of Parliament, and also Osechi Mensah Bonsu, minority leader in there. It says minority shut down. They cry foul, but NDC hails Speaker's action. Indeed, it was pretty interesting. They didn't even get onto the floor.
I told someone it felt like when the election petition verdict was being read. Very short, and to everybody's surprise, this is not what we expecting. Some arguments to hear both sides and all that, but well, anyway, it didn't happen.
Premature. And also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, graduates enlistment into police service. Watch out for the graduate enlistment into the Ghana Police Service in Monday's issue. So, if you are looking forward to that, Monday, do make sure to get a copy of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. It also says fetish priest jailed 3 months. As to what he did, I can't tell. The Ghanaian Times, again, on the back page, VRA plans to invest in wind power and $7.2 billion earned from non-traditional exports. Those are the stories on the front and back pages of the Ghanaian Times newspaper.
Okay, let's go to the Daily Graphic now. On the front page, minority motion to debate vehicle gift no show as Speaker stops action, but minority says it is whimsical display of power, and it has a picture of Edward Doaja and Mr. Osechi Mensah Bonsu. So now the fetish priest story, he was actually jailed for trying to multiply money. Now let's get to that story. I'm quite interested. Did he succeed or not?
Is he a money calculator?
I don't know if he succeeded or he didn't succeed. I don't know.
But is it not interesting? Because now, for instance, when you go onto social media, Facebook or Twitter, the kind of people who follow you, the kind of people who send you friend requests, for me, almost every week,
one malam.
I get a friend request from someone who claims to be a malam who can do A or B
all
or
these
C.
Wonders.
And I don't know. Looking at the kind of people who are on social media, and sometimes, you have a number of friend requests you just need to accept. So if you're not careful and you just go ahead and you click some of these things,
accepted.
And then they keep sending you messages, and I just don't get it.
Probably we should have some regulation.
I think there should be a way to place a ban on some of these things. But is it possible? I don't know, because even when you're traveling, you see people with billboards, huge billboards,
claiming to
Malam,
do a lot of things.
and so spiritual consultancy, and they claim they can do A for you, B for you, C for you, and the question many ask though is that if they can do all these things they profess they can do, why are they usually so poor? They say they can multiply your money, yet you go there and
it's based on your faith. You see, you're working with your faith.
I don't know,
but
tell us what this man did.
Okay, so the Accra Circuit Court has jailed a spiritualist for 3 months for defrauding a trader of 8,000 Ghana cedis after failing to turn the money into 80,000 Ghana cedis as promised.
He was adding 1 0.
8,000 to 80,000.
Adding 1 0.
Wow. And so I'm sure the lady didn't get her 80,000, and also she didn't get her 8,000 back, and so she took the
case. But
if
you have 8,000 Ghana cedis, why do you not invest it into other things? Why do you want it fast?
Kwabena, don't be faithless.
Fast.
Don't be faithless. These people have faith, and that's how they choose to exercise their faith.
It's not. Even the Bible says, if you do not work, you must not eat.
Exactly.
It means you need to work.
And I'm saying don't be faithless with some pinch of sarcasm. Anyway. They have some faith, so allow them to exercise it. But on the back page says, work to begin on Tema Port expansion project this year. And that's a photo of Mr. Richard Anamo announcing the commencement of work on the Tema Port expansion project. And he was talking to a group of people there. Let's check the center spread of today's edition of the Daily Graphic, and it says incorporate deadline for presentation of manifestos in political parties law, and that's, I think, an opinion from an electorate. I don't know how that can work, but it's an interesting suggestion. And the conference on power generation underway in Accra. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
Daily Guide newspaper, front page stories. NDC updates manifesto with new ideas. And it comes with a picture of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And I'm sure you might have heard of some of the things that happened yesterday when the NPP were accusing the governing party of holding on to their manifesto launch because
they want to.
Someone has leaked the NPP's manifesto to them, so they are trying to tap into their ideas and do some quick adjustments, you know. So that's that very issue trending. Also, Mahama Fordcar saga, Speaker rejects probe, and the Kufuor shakes Tamale. And you know, the NPP flag bearer has been in Tamale over the past 3 or 4 days or so. He's been holding a lot of rallies. Yesterday, in fact, I'm told as late as 11 p.m. He was still on the road campaigning.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the information I have, and I was really surprised.
Strong man.
Indeed, quite a lot happening. But there's an interesting story here. I think I just want to read a bit to you. I don't know whether the camera can capture this very story here. It has to do with illegal mining and all. And this is the proposition by the minister. It says, Minister tells chiefs to invoke curses on illegal miners. For him, this is the sure way to go if we need to do away with these Galamsey operators.
Probably he thinks the law has failed us.
Let me read a bit of that story. It says, the Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, Dr. Kwekwa Mensah, has advised chiefs living along the Pra River to invoke curses on illegal miners, that's Galamsey operators, who are bent on polluting the river in the western region. The minister gave the advice during a working visit to inspect water projects and treatment plants at Daboase, Ankobra, and Esuoja, all in the region. When I see such things, I think I should just say I feel sad. I don't know why, but we expect more from our leaders. So unless, of course, yes, we can say we are religious people, and so we are spiritual and religious people. So we always tend to look at things in that way. But honestly, if there are things to be done and they are not done, and as a result of that, the same thing keeps happening, you think cursing people is going to change anything?
Yeah, and there are laws to regulate some of these activities. So you're wondering, as a leader, why not enforce the law?
Exactly the point. And, you know, but that's the proposition coming from the minister. And we'll see how it goes, whether or not indeed we'll be cursing a few more people. And maybe we can do a random survey. Maybe after the cases, 6 months after cursing, what's the state of the Pra River, the Ankobra River, you know. So that's it for the Daily Guide newspaper.
Okay, let's do the BNFT. $1.5 billion Temaport expansion takes off October 1. A non-traditional exports see marginal growth 3 years to a $5 billion target. And still on Galamsey real estate invade irrigation lands. This is a disturbing story. Let me just read a bit of it. Story by Obeda Tayeboa. Public irrigation schemes in some parts of the country are under threat from the activities of illegal mining. That's Galamsey and real estate developers. Kwesi Asare-Mintah, Director of Planning and Coordination at the Ghana Irrigation Development Authority, has disclosed. In an interview with the BNFT, Mr. Asare-Mintah said irrigation lands in Ashaman, Weija, Dowenya, Akrobi, Adiambra, and Asantekwa have been encroached by real estate developers. You can read the details of that story on the front page of the BNFT, quite a disturbing one. And on the back page of the BNFT, Dalek Schools Entrepreneurs on Innovation, Gisla Financial Services support the needy and Tigo Cash customers to receive over 1 million Ghana cedi in quarterly interest payments. Kwabna, remember we spoke about that, the interest on the mobile monies, and Tigo Cash customers are to receive over 1 million Ghana cedi in quarterly interest payments.
Okay, so Tigo Cash is also going to do that. Then I'm sure it's going to be replicated elsewhere. Airtel Money started it. I think they announced it 2 weeks ago or so. And now Tigo Cash is also saying it. So who knows? MTN Mobile Money and
all the
Vodafone
other
Cash and
mobile money services.
Which other one? Okay, for now, those are the ones we have. Daily Dispatch newspaper, front page. Speaker Do Ajaho was right. Minority acted in bad faith. That's according to Muntaka Mubarak. He's a majority chief whip in Parliament. And indeed, they said they whipped the minority, so I'm not surprised. This is how the headline is being couched. And also, majority teases minority. And I'm sure you've heard of the many promises being made by the NPP and Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So now it has become a joke. One would say one chicken, one pupil.
One eclipse.
One government, or one something.
1 year, one
okay.
eclipse.
So apparently the majority has its own joke for the NPP. It says, one suspect, one police. So
they're adding to the promises.
They're adding to the promises, the many promises by the NPP, it appears. And also on the back page, you get a full story of that very story on the front page. Says a minority acted in bad faith, according to Muntaka Mubarak. Also, those are the stories on the front and back pages of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. But just before we move on, there's a quick one here. It says over 2,500 delegates storm Kumasi for UFP Congress. You know the UFP?
Hey, I know the UFP. Just we haven't heard from them in a long time.
They're saying they have over 2,500 delegates who will be storming Kumasi for the party's Congress. Now, information reaching the Ashanti Regional Bureau of the Daily Dispatch indicates that more than 2,500 delegates of the United Front Party will storm Kumasi on Saturday, September 3, for a special delegates congress. The congress, which is expected to take place at Kumasi Center for National Culture, is expecting delegates across the 275 constituencies in the country. It reminds me of Hassan Ayariga when he was, should I say, holding his congress as well, the APC. They did at the conference center.
Yeah, and
they mentioned that we're going to have so many people, and in the end we had people who were supposed to be enjoying the progressively free senior high school system and the normal. I hear quite a number of JHS pupils and primary school students. I don't know whether they were delegates or they were relatives of delegates who were representing the delegates on the day, but apparently that was the situation.
It was a no-show.
I'm just hoping that's not what we see in Kumasi as far as this UFP Congress is concerned. But that'll be it for the Daily Dispatch newspaper.
All right, and an interesting one here on the front page of the Weekend Finder. Religious catastrophe imminent as followers believe just anything their leaders say. And Kwabna, if you listen keenly on a lot of radio stations and online as well, on Facebook, a lot of people were disturbed with the recent happening of
Professor Mate
and Obinim especially. And a lot of people felt that, no, the way this thing is going, if you ask people to do anything, they're going to do it, and that's quite disturbing. And
do you blame the people? In a country where everything is embroiled around religion, myths, traditions, and belief systems, it becomes difficult to gradually separate that from reality, you know, and particularly also when people are, the poverty levels and the literacy levels are pretty high, it makes it very difficult. For many people who are desperate, they see these leaders as the only way out. These spiritual leaders and spiritual
as their God.
Exactly. So if your God is saying, or if a representative of your God is saying, you know what, I know, or some way, somehow, they are able to prophesy or look into the future and say one or two things about you. So if this person is saying A, B, C about me, and he's saying, after he's seen these things about me, there are prospects. But in order to achieve these things, I need to, for instance, chew one bag of cassava. They will go ahead and chew it. Don't blame them if they are acting like that.
Well, let me just pick the few paragraphs of that story. They command a large following and are revered and worshipped by their members. Too many men of God are an embodiment of God himself on the pulpit. Hence, their instructions are deemed sacred and carried out by their members without questions. While many of these men of God have impacted society tremendously, there is, however, a growing concern among many Ghanaians about the activities of some so-called men of God, whose actions behind the pulpit have been closely associated with violence and human rights abuse. So he talks about divination and witchcraft in the church.
This thing is written around one pastor in the country. Violence.
And you know, he makes that example with the American leader Jim Jones, who the Kool-Aid issue, and he killed 918 members, almost 1,000 of his congregation. Now, he told his followers not to fear death and that death was their friend. At the end, he ended up killing a total of 909 people of his members, including 303 children through cyanide poisoning. And a lot of people Fear that the way some of our religious leaders in this country are going, if you are not careful, we may have such a catastrophe.
Hopefully,
we just pray it doesn't happen.
Hopefully we rise above that.
But it's an interesting article on the Weekend Finder.
Okay, let's go online. Photos. Parliament records 6 phases of dejection, 6 phases of satisfaction, and you should go on to myjournalline.com and see those pictures. Amazing pictures there. And again, one suspect, one police. Majority laughs as Speaker single-handedly crushes a minority. Anyway, it's interesting, Sometimes
very.
how these things happen. Progress with IMF deal critical for UK investor confidence in Ghana. That's according to John Benjamin.
Very vocal diplomat, John Benjamin.
Exceptionally vocal, to a point where some say, you know what, you're too vocal. Sometimes you just need to tone down a bit. You know? I think
maybe he's redefining diplomacy. You know,
he's the Professor Mate of UK. I think. Superman Rawlings was unbeatable in 1996 election. That's according to former President John Ejekum Kufuor, and he's been saying a lot more and how he managed to become president and the challenges he went through, the struggles and all. And I'm sure we'll be bringing you a lot more on that in subsequent bulletins right here on your Joy News channel.
Why brown shoes can ruin your career in London banking. Interesting.
Brown shoes.
Brown shoes. Wow. The British investment banking industry is underpinned by entrenched elitism that blocks people from lower income backgrounds winning jobs on the basis of ability, according to a report by a government advisory. This is such a captivating headline. I'd like to see the details of that.
Okay. Fred, maybe we could just quickly look through and talk about some of the other stories, and then we can come back to this story, how a brown shoe that is being worn by any person can affect his or her work in the banking industry elsewhere. U.S. University helps slave descendants, and I was listening to this report earlier this morning, and it was pretty interesting. Well, they are of the opinion that, and it has to do with the biggest U.S. university, they think that they've taken so much away from
the black community
that they want to give back to them. I mean, they believe the American society was built around these people, the hard work, the toil of these black members, but for one reason or the other, they have not benefited as much. So now they are doing this
and
sort
I
of
think
compensate.
Yes, and I think it's heartwarming considering all that has happened with the hashtag Black Lives Matter and all that. I think doing this is very timely, and I think is really commendable.
To an extent, it fits into Hillary Clinton's agenda. She says Black Lives Matter. And then Trump comes and says, all lives matter. Interesting, though. He said Nketiah followed his ignorance, not the constitution, in his minority attack. That's according to Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, who is the minority leader in Parliament. And also in other news now, police officials must handle power carefully.
Yes,
Public officials must handle power carefully. Okay. Does this have anything to do with the remission of sentencing? Okay.
We'd have to see that.
Anyway.
Okay, so let's go to that story.
Let's return to that story. Why brown shoes can ruin your career in London banking? Okay. Over to you.
All right. Okay. So, and recruiters seeking polished candidates who speak and dress a certain way often discriminate against applicants on the basis of details, including shoe color and where they went to school.
Okay, that's a report. That's fine.
It's an interesting report.
Findings,
but they discriminate because of my shoe color. Wow.
I don't know what goes into that. Maybe we could look at that on one of the editions of the AM show. We could take a look at all these things. What it means to even wear a black shoe for an interview, or a brown shoe, or anything, you know. Yeah. Some of these things really matter. The only thing is we do not necessarily pay attention to some of these things, but I know, and I've heard of some companies, even here in Ghana, that are very particular about what you wear, how you wear it. Extremely particular about it. So for you can't wear anything less a heel. Nothing less than a heel. It has to be about 6 inches
or more.
That's their standard. Yes.
Wow.
You know, so it's pretty interesting how some of these things
and I'm sure you'd want to read that report.
Oh, it's on myjournline.com. It's on myjournline.com.
Interesting so one over there.
You can visit that portal and get the very latest as far as that issue and many more are concerned. But you're still watching the AM show right here. Time now for some sports, right?
And the award-winning Benedict Owusu standing by.
Okay. We'll be bringing a lot more sports after sports. We'll come back and then, like I said, we'll be doing some pretty interesting things. Today's a Friday. We need to lighten up the mood. So that's exactly what we'll be doing on the AM show. So do stay tuned. Right after sports, we have a lot more coming up. Don't go away.